Hi guys, Joe Protocol here. Welcome back to another tips video on my channel. Today I'm going to be taking you through exactly how I would mix a drum break in my general drum group with kick snares and hi-hats. I use drum breaks in my productions because I find they have a more natural groove to them as opposed to what I could do just with programming alone. Mostly because they're played by real musicians, real drummers. Some of the original drum breaks are from funk from the 70s. But in this example, I'm going to show you using a drum break which I programmed and kind of made sound like an old drum break. So before I do that, if you're enjoying my videos and you want to support the channel, the easiest thing you can do is hit like, hit subscribe. You can also buy one of my sample packs, which is available on my Bandcamp, as well as some of the music on there. And if you're looking to dive deeper into drum and bass production, you can feel free to reach out to me because I'm available for private tuition in this style of drum and bass. So let's not waste any time. Let's jump into this. So here I have this loop here. I'm just going to play it through for you. So we're going to start off with the break. Here's the break. As I said, it's an old school break from my sample pack. Old school break style drum loop. Let's hear this by itself. And one of the first things I like to do with a drum break is cut the low end. The reason being that we really want a kind of more present kick drum to punch through. I mean, this is a drum break I've put together to make it sound kind of old. I mean, most old school drum breaks will sound a bit like this, where they'll have a kind of crustier low end kick drum. So we want like a kind of more punchy kick drum to come through and cut through this kick drum. So first of all, I'm going to add an instance of Pro Q. And let's introduce a low cut, and let's just play this through and kind of certainly cut out the kick and maybe even a bit of the snare low end. There you go. So that should allow for some space later on when we introduce a kick drum. And moving on, I'm going to introduce the glue compressor because it's a very transient sounding drum. I mean, it's got lots of ups and downs, so the compressor is just going to bring it back together. And I like the way the glue compressor here sounds in Ableton. So let's introduce some glue compression. With a compressor like this, I think I want a really instant attack because I'm not interested in enhancing the transients. I really want to just squash the whole thing because the transients are going to come from like the individual kick and snare later. I'm going to put the release to automatic. I kind of like that, and then like a kind of strong ratio. I really want to just crush this a little bit. Exactly, and that compressor kind of enhances the kind of high ends a lot more because obviously it's working more on the low end because the compressor just works on amplitude. It doesn't work on frequency, so it gives us more of a kind of shuffly type feel on the high ends. Okay, so here's the Poltergate, which is a gate type plugin. And this one's pretty good because it's got like a de-bleed, which helps kind of bleed off some of that extra noise essentially in some of the hits. So I'm going to show you how that works in a second. First of all, the gate, obviously, if you don't know how a gate works, you set a threshold and everything below that threshold kind of drops out of volume. And this can help you create a kind of cleaner sound because it cuts out the kind of noise in between. So I'm going to show you how I work this. Let's play it through. So there you go, we've kind of created a much sharper sound with that noise kind of disappearing out in between. So that's the threshold. You've got some extra settings here like the release time and the hold. This is how long it holds before it triggers the release. But let's move on to the debleed. You can hear that at really extreme settings. It's almost no noise. It's almost like a clean hi-hat. So we want to find somewhere in between. So once I'm happy with my break layer, I want to introduce a couple extra elements. Obviously, let's move on to the kick. So I've got this other kick from a sample pack, Protocol Kick 4. Let's blend that with the break here. So that's obviously taking place of the kick. We made space for that earlier with the low cut. Now next, let's introduce the snare, another one for my pack. And in the mix, I really don't want the break to be so present. That's why I've brought it back a little bit. We want a nice blend between the kick and the snare. So that's one snare layer. That's kind of like a more textured layer. I've got this other snare layer below. This is more just your typical 808 sound. Let's listen to that in isolation. So quite boring by itself, but with the other snare. With the other snare, it can help just enhance the low ends a little bit, give it a bit more punch and a bit more body. So let's hear those together. There you go. When you take that lower layer out, you can hear how essential that is in allowing that snare to punch through. And what I would typically add on top is a hi-hat, because obviously there's a lot of hi-hats in this drum break, but I feel like a nice clean hi-hat on top again could do a similar thing like with the snare, where you just enhance, but this time with the top end. So let's introduce a hi-hat now. So that's how I would normally work in a drum break with the other elements of a drum. Obviously I would take this a much further, but that's for another video. So if you've enjoyed this video, once again, please leave a like and subscribe and follow me for more, and reach out if you're looking to dive deeper into production. But if not, I'll see you in the next video.